There's nothing more stressful than the feeling you can't get what your child needs.
The president admits he didn't know how bad the baby formula shortage would get. Now the White House is launching a new tool to try to address the shortage.
I ask you to keep focused, stay in high gear.
Need medics code 10, I got an officer down.
Denver police officers are preparing for the next emergency virtually. We're getting a look at their training.
It can put us in a scenario that is real or realistic without actually having the threats or dangers of being in that actual environment.
Plus, after a high-scoring Game 1,
Here comes McKinnon moving in, he scores!
the Avs are hoping for a little more defensive approach in Game 2.
Can we keep them off the score sheet? If not, can we outscore them?
Colorado's fentanyl crisis is getting worse, and state leaders are meeting over the next 2 days to find ways to help fix the problem. Thanks so much for joining us for Denver 7 News at 11. I'm Jason Grenauer. State troopers confiscated more than 200 pounds of the drug so far this year. That's more than all of last year, and more than 700 Coloradans died from the drug just last year. Denver 7's Colette Bordelon joins us live with more on a fentanyl summit happening right now. Colette?
Yeah, Jason, one of the goals of that summit, making sure dealers are held accountable. And there's no doubt that one of the most controversial pieces of legislation out of this year's session is going to come up during this summit. Now, that law makes the possession of 1 to 4 grams of fentanyl a felony charge. If a defendant can prove in court they didn't know they had fentanyl, then the judge or jury could decide to drop the charge to a misdemeanor. I've been talking with a district attorney who will be presenting at the summit, and he wants to make sure prosecutors are using that new law appropriately. The summit will also feature conversations about what's led to the rise in overdose deaths in our state, and attendees will hear from someone who's lost a family member to fentanyl. Colorado's Attorney General Phil Weiser says this problem, though, it dates back decades, and that more drug treatment and recovery options are what's really needed.
This problem started in the 1990s with prescription pills. We had a generation get addicted to these pills. Then the cartels came in selling heroin. Now they're selling fentanyl. We need a multi-pronged response to this crisis, including education and awareness right now that people might think they're buying a pill, but it's actually fentanyl.
Weiser says Colorado is getting $400 million over the course of the next 18 years. That money starts coming in this fall, and he says it's from suing pharmaceutical companies like Purdue or Johnson & Johnson. Now, each part of the state will get their own amount of money, and they can decide how to use it to build up better drug treatment and recovery options for the people living there. Weiser also says more money could be coming into Colorado as more settlements come in. Live in Denver, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
Colette, thank you. Now, Denver Mayor Michael Hancock told Denver 7 the city has consulted with fentanyl experts from across the country to help address the crisis.
One of the things we found was the medical treatment assistance services in the jail themselves, so that people who are addicted to these services actually receive medical assistance while they're in our care.
Now, Hancock says the city wants to expand the number of beds in jail available for treatment. They also want to better understand the history of people who are in recovery. Now, we've done several stories on Colorado's fentanyl crisis. You can find our previous stories up on thedenverchannel.com or on the Denver 7 Plus app. We're learning new details about a mass shooting at a Tulsa medical office. Authorities say the suspected gunman bought an AR-style rifle hours before killing 4 people. Police say the man had undergone back surgery and called the clinic complaining of pain. Rena Roy reports.
They're running in.
First responders rushing to the scene of America's latest mass shooting Wednesday evening.
We're shooting at the Natalie building, 6475 South Yale.
Police say 4 people were killed when a gunman stormed into a Tulsa medical facility armed with a rifle and handgun and opened fire.
At 2 p.m. on June the 1st, Mr. Lewis purchased a semi-automatic rifle from a local gun store.
Several others were injured.
He came in with the intent to kill Dr. Phillips and anyone who got in his way. He blamed Dr. Phillips for the ongoing pain following the surgery.
Authorities say the gunman died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound at the scene. Meantime, the nation still reeling over the massacre in Uvalde, Texas. 19 children and 2 teachers killed last week. 3 more children being buried today. Mourners paying tribute to teacher Eva Mireles.
We know in our hearts that, she's a hero, not only here in Uvalde, but throughout the whole community, and we know that for a fact.
The investigation into the shooting continues. School Police Chief Pete Arredondo, who made the call for officers to wait to confront the gunman, says he's in fact talking with state investigators. This after the Texas Department of Public Safety said that he had not responded to requests for a follow-up interview for days.
Calls for gun control are growing louder across the country. Today, the House Judiciary Committee is holding an emergency hearing on gun control bills, and the full House could vote as early as next week, though the package likely will not pass in the Senate. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
We're getting a look at what Denver police are doing to try to protect people from another mass shooting. They're using virtual reality training. Now, officers can practice responses to different types of situations, from active shooters to situations where they don't know what the problem could be. Now, a lot of the training is about de-escalation. Officers can also work on their communication and their body language. One of the most useful tools is the ability to rewind and then replay that situation.
It is filmed, so it doesn't look like a video game at all. It definitely looks more like a movie. But again, the way that it was filmed and filmed and filmed and filmed, and so it has all the different outcomes to it.
Denver police also train in person and in the classroom, but officers say the virtual reality training gives them a bit of a different perspective. People impacted by the Marshall Fire can learn more about underinsurance tonight. The Colorado Division of Insurance is hosting another virtual town hall. The agency will review things like that insurance companies are doing to help and discuss what to do if you're underinsured. It's from 5 to 7. The meeting will also be posted to the Division of Insurance's Marshall Fire Response website. Jefferson County wants you to clean up your yard to protect it from wildfires. You can get rid of debris like tree limbs and pine needles at several events starting today. One of those, people can drop off debris at Beaver Ranch Park in Conifer. Now keep in mind, things like tree stumps, rocks, trash, and grass clippings are not accepted. There are several other drop-off events through August. OPEC Plus is preparing to increase oil production this summer. The alliance will raise production by nearly 650,000 barrels per day in July and August. Now, this is restoring cuts it made during the pandemic. The increased output will likely only bring modest relief to the world economy, facing soaring energy prices as well as inflation. Rising oil prices are pushing gas to a record high in the U.S. The average price for a gallon of gas across the country is $4.71. That's a jump of more than 10 cents in the past week. In Colorado, our prices average out to $4.43. They've gone up more than 20 cents this week. Not only are Americans seeing higher gas prices, but families still can't find baby formula. President Joe Biden admitted he didn't realize until April how big of an impact shutting down the Abbott baby formula factory in February would have. He met with formula suppliers virtually yesterday. Some formula makers say they're operating 24/7. The president also admitted the problem won't be fixed immediately.
We can't let up in the infant formula market back until it's all the way back to normal. And that's going to take a couple more months, but we're making significant progress.
And 2 flights of formula from Australia will arrive in the U.S. next week. The planes will carry the equivalent of 4.6 million bottles of formula. The White House also has a new website tracking efforts to get more formula to grocery stores. whitehouse.gov/formula shows supply has been increasing since mid-May. It also has a list of what the administration is doing to try to fix the shortage. The Colorado State Health Department is saying it can't confirm if our hospitals have received shipments of baby formula. CDPHE originally said hospitals had received shipments over the weekend, but now they're not sure. Officials say state agencies are still working with families to help them locate the formula that they need. A government report is giving us new info on the decision to relocate the headquarters of the Space Force from Colorado to Alabama. The Air Force says it changed its own process for selecting the HQ in the months before the final destination was selected. Huntsville, Alabama was chosen as the new headquarters. Many Colorado lawmakers believed it was a political move by former President Donald Trump. The Avs are back on the ice tonight for Game 2 in their series against the Edmonton Oilers. Both teams are hoping their defenses can tighten up after 14 total goals were scored in Game 1. Now, Avs coach Jared Bednar says he was pleased with the team's offense. How can you not be? But says adjustments will be made on defense going into tonight's game.
Whenever you're giving up a scoring chance, there's a mistake. It's really that simple. Even elite players, they're gonna create when you're doing everything right, a little bit, but not to the level that we gave up.
Bednar confirmed goalie Darcy Kemper is out for tonight's game. He left Game 1 with an upper body injury, so expect to see Pavel Francouz, Frankie as they call him, start at goaltender. Game 2 starts at 6 from Ball Arena. We'll have live reports starting on Denver 7 News at 4. Well, it's also the start of the NBA Finals tonight between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. This is the Warriors' 6th trip to the finals in the last 8 years. They also beat the Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs. Not bitter at all over here. Tip-off is at 6:30 right here on Denver 7. Coming up, a Colorado company is giving families a chance to connect around the table. Still ahead, we'll show you how the business is carving one-of-a-kind shapes into conversation pieces. Plus, a scenic railroad season is temporarily put on hold.